Last time we spoke, you called yourself a senior quality engineer.
Senior
Quality engineer. Is it Spain?
Mr. Quality Engineer.
Yes. But still, quality engineer seems to be the common theme in this job title. And I just said, I'm just senior. And and I forgot to go back with hilarity to your new job title.
Oh, right, okay.
Which you philosophically disagree with.
Somewhat, yes.
You didn't manage to negotiate them away from calling it that.
Well, I would have had to...
I'll only come there if you change the job title to tester.
If you change like your entire function.
Yes.
To my point of view, I figured that would be supremely arrogant, basically.
And?
What's your point? Why didn't you?
I have 17 points.
Yeah.
Number one.
So, if we're going to get into it, right?
Well, I think we will. But let's not until we get to it.
Well,
I know.
Okay.
I've poked the bear. And now
exactly. But now I feel compelled to explain.
Yes. Well,
but I won't.
Don't worry. You'll be able to feel that feeling very easily again.
Okay.
I don't think...
Are you going to do quality engineering as your next thing?
No. All right. We ready?
Yes, ready. I think we're warmed up now, aren't we? We've almost got to quality engineering. but
we've pulled back from the brink.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Begin monologue.
Maybe it'll come up later. Just maybe.
Just maybe.
So I wanted to start off by saying thank you to Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Mary is a listener. She's listened to this podcast, I believe, since very early on in it.
The beginning.
And she sent me a text message to indicate that she has read the show notes.
Because that's the only thing that matters.
Thank you. You.
So basically, in the message, she says she's read the show notes. She knows I got a new job, and then really likes the new look of the podcast, but doesn't actually say that she's listened to it.
It would be hard to... She could have got that from the show notes. Except that nobody would have read the show notes until they listened to us haranguing them about it.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So I'm morally certain that Mary has listened to our episode.
So in Mary's, is it I read the show notes or I read the show notes?
I don't know.
See, this is why I'm a quality engineer.
It is,
and
yes.
You're not.
Yes, that's very true.
I see the
ambiguity.
The ambiguity
of
there.
Words.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, on reflection, what Mary said was, I read the show notes.
Hey.
Exclamation mark. And the exclamation mark is more sensible for I read the show notes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to thank you again, Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thanks for listening. No? No. I'm certain of the listening.
Yeah. We must mention the new look as well.
There is a new look. You'll only have seen it.
So there's less aardvark. Clanger.
It's not an aardvark. It's perfectly clearly a clanger wearing a sort of clanger garment.
A clanger garment. But it has two humans, as in us, on the front.
And to avoid confusion, it actually has our names with little arrows pointing to us.
Well, we figured it's probably, I think that's a useful pointer.
Basically, neither of us really wants to be mistaken for the other.
No. And the reason why I'm holding my eyelids open is on the picture, not right now, is because...
I was looking carefully at you thinking, your hands are nowhere near your eyelids.
Well, I am. You're always holding them open, aren't you? Unless you're asleep. But on the picture...
Not blinking lightly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. But yeah, on the picture, I'm holding my eyes open because whenever someone takes a picture of me, my eyes generally tend to be closed or look as if they're closed.
And interestingly, of all the pictures we took, by far the best one was the one where you were holding your eyelids open.
Yeah. So it makes sense when you know the backstory.
We did take some suspicious pictures on that occasion.
Yes, indeed.
There was one I'm just going to have to leave the reader to imagine what it might have been.
Yeah.
I don't think I can say that. I think I'm affecting our reputation negatively. So yes, there is a new look, and it's taken quite a while for us to do it in response to our big review by the lovely Mark Steadman. But yes, we've made it. We've got a new look.
Yeah.
And, more subtly, a new title.
Oh, yes.
What's the title of this podcast, Ash?
It's what a lot of things. Tech talk from a human perspective.
It is. The colon in that.
You seem so shocked.
You didn't pronounce the colon.
Oh, right, okay.
It was implied in your tone. But there is a colon in it as well. I would have said, what a lot of things, colon.
Do you always announce the colon?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's just people searching for it, maybe we'll never be able to be found by searching for what a lot of things.
Because of the colon.
We'll have to search for what a lot of things colon now.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
We're
going to
almost...
fest up. I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah. We're almost nearly right, aren't we? But we generally add an extra
like a
something.
stopped clock, we're right twice a day.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So shall we deploy the fairness algorithm, Ian?
I think we shall, although since I edited the last episode about 10 minutes ago in my subjective time, I can safely say we started with Notebook LM.
Yeah.
So that means we are going to do whatever your thing is first. And I'm just keeping the tension going until the very last second. So, Ash, what? What is your thing?
So my thing is it's a statement.
What, like a list of transactions?
No, like a statement by a person or an entity.
An entity?
Consulting entity. The statement is, yes, you can measure software developer productivity.
Ooh.
Because in general...
Fight me.
Yeah. In general, we in software say, oh, well, measuring individual productivity or software developer productivity is... You can't do that. Don't work like that. We're creative.
Well, I think the thing is that what you can't do is measure it in the ways that people who don't understand it immediately come up with, like lines of code.
Yeah. Number of bugs
Well,
found.
your job is to write code, so obviously the more the better.
Yeah. So the article was by McKinsey, a highly enlightened consultancy. I'm
looking at your face to try and judge the level of sarcasm, but I was not detecting any sarcasm,
no.
which I feel is...
So it's
I think
either
the meter is faulty. I'm just going to tap the dial.
It's either like the highest level sarcasm possible, undetectable.
Yeah, I think that's it. You've blown the meter.
The reason why this article of yes, you can measure software developer productivity, the reason it intrigued me is because I thought it would be a good one to explore my dislike for deadlines, my disdain for estimates, and my general belief that many of the metrics created for software development are owed to the failure of people and product management, dreadful prioritization, and an unshakable belief in the principles of the Industrial Revolution.
And a fanatical dedication to the Pope.
Yeah. So I'll give you the gist of the article, shall I? So basically, would you like the gist?
Ash, please summarise the attached article.
Do you want that in a podcast form or?
I want you to delve deeply into the treasure trove that is this article.
Okay, so the article is a treasure trove of... No. So the article basically says all companies are now tech companies.
Okay.
Or have a tech aspect to them.
Okay.
And a lot of them have developers. So we should be better at measuring developer productivity because other people in other roles get their productivity measured all the time. So why are you so special? Well, not you, Ian, but,
I mean, yeah, but...
Yeah, but I'm Ian Smith.
For the purposes of this, let's just confine it to all developers.
Yeah.
Except me.
Fair.
I don't need my productivity to measure. Thank you very much. I'm special.
So loads of people in the industry say you can't measure developer productivity, and certainly not very well. But the boffins at McKinsey have come up with a way. I enjoy using the word boffins.
It is a word with special resonances for the UK audience.
Definitely. So
completely incomprehensible to anybody else.
That's probably why I like it as well. So this includes measuring at system, team, and individual level. Okay.
Well, I'm not innately hostile to any of that.
Okay.
I mean, it was interesting. There was another report from McKinsey that probably wasn't the same one, but maybe it was. No, it wasn't called anything about developer productivity, but it said that the main unit of productivity is a team. So they were kind of saying team productivity is more important.
Yeah, I'm on board with
than
that.
individual performance.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they're saying that developer productivity, or rather development productivity, software development productivity.
That's the thing, isn't it?
System, meaning presumably the system. Well, yeah. Let's do terminology. What does system mean in that context?
So the system, that actually means the actual code that you're developing. So it talks about measuring that using, say, deployment frequency and uptime. And
so DORA metrics apply to the system.
Yeah, so for the system, they'll use DORA metrics to measure productivity. And then for the team and individual, they'll use space metrics. So
the final frontier.
The final frontier. So space means satisfaction and well-being, performance, activity, communication, and collaboration, and efficiency and flow. There's lots of ands in there. It seems like they might have tortured that into the acronym SPACE.
It's like space.
It's like fine.
Dear. But so, sorry, I'm still a bit stuck on system.
Yeah.
Even though we've clearly moved on to space.
Space.
But do DORA metrics measure productivity?
Not necessarily, I don't think.
I mean, I think they measure, I would describe it as effectiveness.
Yeah. See, that I guess we're going like back up a level here as well, aren't we? About like what is this article actually trying to say? They talk about like efficiency, and you talk about effectiveness. And I'm kind of with you. I'd rather be effective than efficient. I'd rather do the most important work than do lots of work efficiently.
I've asked ChatGPT in one word, what do DORA metrics measure? And the answer comes back, performance, full stop.
System performance or team performance?
I only allowed it one word.
No. So it uses DORA and space metrics in order to measure productivity. And then a few other things at like an individual level as well.
So I'm most interested in the individual ones. And the reason is that organisations do different things to, quotes, unquotes, rectify problems at these different levels.
Yeah.
But at the individual level is where they feel they have the most punch.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm quite interested in what the individual ones are.
So they do something called, I think it was called contribution analysis, which sounds as terrifying as, you imagine that it is. So basically, it says, look at your JIRA or whatever your task management system is and see how long things have been in columns and who's completed the most tickets, those types of things. But they put it in like a soft language, if you know what I mean. So
I think they would have to, because as soon as it's a race to do the most tickets,
and
how can we inflate the tickets' perceived size and then do the most of them?
Yeah.
Well, I did 700 T-shirt sizes of work.
Yeah.
By rating everything I do as 5 T-shirts, as extra large.
Yeah.
And then doing it in half a day.
So contribution analysis, according to the article, it can help identify opportunities for individual upskilling or training and rethinking role distribution within a team. For instance, if a quality assurance tester has enough work to do. I was like...
That
Well,
never happens.
yeah.
They're all just sitting around idly, aren't they?
Yeah. I was like, well, thank you for coming up with yet another framework which punches downwards on the testers. You know what I mean? Like, you've done it again. Such a soft target.
Oh.
So yeah, I was like, right, okay. So I wonder why you picked out that particular.
I wasn't hating you, McKinsey, but now I am.
I can tell you that quality assurance testers, I mean, that job title, just the fact that they use that as the title baffles me.
They should be saying quality engineer.
Quality engineer. Well, at least that's more comprehensible than a quality assurance tester.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I was like, okay, now you've got me on the. I'm bristling now.
He's bristling.
You immediately.
His beard has gone to twice the normal size.
Like a badger. So immediately you've talked about contribution analysis and gone straight to the tester.
Yes.
It's like, absolutely get stuffed. So McKinsey, I'm ready to go to battle with you.
I think that what they meant by that was that if a quality assurance tester didn't have enough work to do, that they would be able to reskill them to be able to be a developer or something else.
Yeah, sounds like that, doesn't it?
And to make their life better.
Are you saying that my life would be better if I was a developer?
I'm saying
people would be trying to measure my productivity.
That
I don't want that.
I don't McKinsey would say that you're being upskilled by giving you new skills that mean that you can perform more roles inside the team.
That's not my skill set.
Not at all sarcastic.
Not at all. All right, okay, sorry. Yeah, just tap the meter again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's registering.
Yeah.
It's barely there, but it's registering.
It's melted.
So, one of the other themes of the article that I quite liked was that in order to be able to measure developer productivity, you need to make the systems and processes that they work within like not rubbish. It's actually very hard to measure something if you just, because amazingly, it's almost like if the systems and processes you use are rubbish, then the teams and individuals look rubbish as well, don't they?
Well, it's interesting that if you're drinking the McKinsey Kool-Aid here, you're measuring system performance using DORA metrics, which if you start doing that will tend to lead to better processes because otherwise it's very hard to do very well with very poor DORA metrics. Yeah. Says the very large amount of research that went into them.
Yeah. So doing that, maybe looking at the DORA metrics and then looking at the space metrics before you start looking at individual contributions.
Yeah.
Because your individual contributions will be constrained by the quality of the other metrics.
And in fact, that might be the order of repair.
Yeah.
So if there's a problem, you start by fixing the system, then you move on to the team and the processes, and then only then do you start trying to fix individuals.
Yeah, I hope so.
Every organisation who adopts this, who have read this article and think, yes, we should do that, that's what they're all thinking.
So this has apparently worked at 20 companies, which I assume are McKinsey's clients, you would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I guess...
maybe they just read the DevOps handbook and counted the companies
just
in it.
Gave everybody a copy of the Phoenix project. And
I'd say you can do a lot worse than that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, that's very true. So one of the other things that I enjoyed in there was a kind of another dig at remote working as well, in terms of because people work remotely, therefore you need to measure them more. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. I'll knock that off the bingo card.
Controlio!
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I've always wanted to say that. You've always been the one that said that, but I wanted to say it.
Oh, I'm glad you got it in. So,
I am too.
Yeah. But I think mostly, like, overall, this thing that I read, because it does remind me of being measured as a tester with bugs, test cases, number of developers that I've upset.
See, they don't measure number of developers you've upset, but they should.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm all over that.
So when they're telling you off for not enough bugs, you can just come back to them with, oh yes, but I upset 200 developers.
It must have been a good bug.
Yeah. yeah, that one bug.
So a question for you, Ian. Do you think developer productivity can be measured in a decent way? Forgetting this framework, because You know, we could pick holes in this all day, can't we?
Yeah, but I actually don't think it's too awful. I mean, you're getting into there's Goodhart's law, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is that basically any measure that turns into
Look it up.
I'll have to look it up. So Goodhart's law, you deserve an explanation, so please don't skip this 1-minute read. It's Wednesday, the 27th of November, and our fundraiser will soon be over. Please reflect on how often you visited Wikipedia this year, and if you'll give £2.75 to the Wikimedia Foundation. Sorry, I don't think that was what I was trying to look up.
But that's what you got.
That's it. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, is how people articulate that.
Yeah.
So that's a pitfall. Probably, is that mentioned in the article?
No. It's
but
just
that's a
this
pitfall.
we've used this on 20 clients and everything's going great. But
Yes.
I would expect that from a consultancy's article.
Effectively, that's a pitfall that companies trying to do these probably quite good measurement ideas. Developer productivity. I think my whole thought on this revolves around Goodhart's law. I think that if you approach it with, we want to make everything better, what can we learn from the DORA metrics, the space metrics, and individual contribution metrics to make things better, then I feel like, you can. I think that would tend to make things better.
Yeah.
But if it was, right, we've measured your space and you're too claustrophobic, so you're fired. Or if you don't increase your space over the course of this year, then you'll be fired next year.
Yeah.
It's like Shaun the Sheep, isn't it?
Shaun the Sheep, yeah.
Space. It was Larry the Lamb when I was a kid that talked like that. Anyway, let's not go down that terrible rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I feel like as soon as you're using it to beat people up, then it all falls to bits. But I do think it's helpful to measure stuff around development, because without measuring it, it's hard to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of like similar, but I think the unit of delivery is the team. So you measure the team's metric. Yeah. And you leave the individuals alone, because what you want to know is the team delivering the value that you want it to do. But I realise that there are organisations, they still want to know what individuals are up to, don't they?
Well, they need to know who to lay off at the end of the year.
Yeah, they need to know the bottom 10% who need to go, don't they? So,
which is, it sucks.
Yeah.
I suppose.
So do you think, like, software developers in general, do we resist the notion unnecessarily, in your experience?
Well, I would sympathise with an instinctive resistance to the notion, because of the way these things fall foul of Goodhart's law, and so I can see why it would be quite reasonable for people to develop an instinctive resistance to it. Yeah, because the next thing you know, it's you've only done this many lines of code, or somebody else has done it. But I do think that measuring things helps give you the information you need to improve things. I mean, I think, for example, a lot of developers, while resisting being measured, would approve of DORA metrics. Yeah. In fact, they invented them.
Yeah.
To
try and take the focus off individuals.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And for those reasons, that those are a powerful driver to make things better. I think if you found that for developers and used it with a pure heart, then yes, I think it will be great. But as soon as you introduce, particularly in large corporations where they've got spreadsheets of people and they sort them to do things, they need numbers to populate the columns of their spreadsheet. That's the temptation for them.
Yeah. One other thing that I found quite interesting in the article itself, they talked about, they called it work done in the inner loop and work done in the outer loop. So the inner loop is coding.
Right.
And testing. And the outer loop is deployments. So outer loop is deployment, security and compliance, integration with other systems and meetings.
So it's DevOps.
Well, they talk about, so basically they say you need to be spending more time on the inner loop.
Well, that's your main... Yeah. That's when you produce.
Yeah, so productive people spend time on the inner loop, not the outer loop. The ThoughtWorks blog that pointed me to this post basically said, so focusing on productivity in the way McKinsey suggests can cause us to mistakenly see coding as the real work of software engineering, overlooking things like architectural decisions, security analysis, and performance monitoring, for example. Because I think that's something that I hear quite a lot from developers too. I think that's like, oh, I only have 3 hours a day to do coding, whereas the rest of the time is meeting or, discussing or, whatever it is. So I find that one really interesting. So I've heard that repeated over and over again throughout my career, that the writing of code is the real work, and everything else around it, the architectural discussions and analysis and monitoring and things like that, and meetings is not the real work.
But is that what developers are complaining about? Or are they complaining about status update meetings?
Well, yeah. Developers...
Filling in estimates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thought I could get a bit of sympathy for that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, we had a meeting about estimates today.
Was it about why you weren't going to do them?
Well, I don't say anything. I'm just like, if the team says it's going to take this long, and the only reason I go to those sorts of meetings is because if someone says, well, that's how long coding will take, how long will testing take? The only reason I go is so I can correct that misconception and say, that's not what this is. We talk about the team's work in its entirety, not what the developers do and what the testers do. And that's the only reason I go. And but thankfully today, no one said that.
And who says that we can't automate? You could just send a little parrot to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, you just have a slightly more sophisticated version of Homer Simpson's nodding bird.
Yeah, you just need to detect that signal that someone's about to say something like that. How long will testing take?
Yes, and then blow up the nuclear power plant.
Yeah, and then and then just launch into the monologue about why that's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's it. So I hear the trope of code being the real work quite a lot. And I hear it from developers and from like non-developers as well. So there was one more thing. We should stop being so patronizing to people who don't understand software development.
Oh, well, bless their little concept.
That's exactly what I thought. And I was like, no, you shouldn't think like that.
No. Well, I do in general think that people should stop being patronizing to other people.
Yeah.
And I guess I could extend that to programmers and civilians.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it basically said it on like both sides, because you do get people who are not in software development saying, well, I don't understand that. Well, that's nothing to do with me. I've heard lots of product people say that to me before. It's like, well, that's the technical side. And I'm like, no, both sides, it's the side.
It's the project.
It's the project. There are no sides. It's just like, there's just like the product and the implementation of it are the same thing.
I always used to be driven crazy by project managers I would talk to, who would say, I could manage anything. I don't need to understand anything about the technology. And you're like, well, how can you possibly make decisions to prioritize things if you don't understand it, if you willfully don't understand it?
Yeah.
And by the way, your job is making prioritizing decisions about the project.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Prioritization. No one fancies that either.
So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
How are you going to contextualize now your feelings about deadlines and estimates in the light of that discussion and that article?
Contextualize?
Yeah. I mean, how can you place your feelings about those things in the context of the article and the things that we've just been talking about?
Well, I suppose in terms of, I don't know if I have a good answer, to be honest.
Parse error at line 1.
Yeah.
Fatal error.
Yeah.
Segmentation violation.
Yeah.
Core dumped.
Well, I suppose deadlines and estimates are things that are used. They're turned into metrics, I guess, sometimes.
Well, people immediately believe them and go off and make things depend on them.
Yeah. So if you then judge a team or an individual by those deadlines and estimates, then that's a bad use of metrics. to measure developer productivity. And I just think that they're bad metrics.
Yeah, but I don't think they're metrics at all. I think what they are is people who are being forced to care about how much things cost and how can I prioritize between these things without full information about how much they're going to be and how much they're going to interpose in the list of other things that I want to do. And if they haven't got information about that, they can't do that. So that's why they ask for...
Well, as long as they're using it in that spirit. But I suppose it's not always used in that spirit. Sometimes they are transposed into this is what's going to happen because that's what you said. So, I think that again, it's murky, isn't it?
Well, but, the consequence of people taking that information and using it to understand that is that if it doesn't turn out that way, their sums have turned out to be wrong.
Yeah.
And they get in trouble. So I kind of get it. I sympathise with people who want estimates.
Yeah.
And want things doing by deadlines. I sympathise with them. And almost always you can find some external force that's forcing them to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's always something else going on, isn't there?
But, yeah, it's very disturbing to see a long list of estimates added up.
Yeah.
With no error bars. This could be anything from 12 seconds to 2.5 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
By the time we've added all these up.
Yeah.
Right, we've ruled out at 12 seconds now.
So I guess I put developer productivity and estimates and deadlines into a similar class into a similar category of things that when done, it can be misused quite badly. So I suppose that's how I link them together.
Yeah.
I just think that when used wrongly and used to corner people into making commitments that they can't meet, then I think it's a bad thing.
Unquestionably.
Yeah. So rather than them being metrics themselves, that's fine. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that was my thing. It was just it was full of loads of stuff that when I read it, I got a bit riled, which is quite a nice. I always think it's quite a nice one to talk about because you just immediately either agree, disagree, and find myself very riled when reading that article.
What you need is like an AI that reads articles just before you get to them and then puts trigger warnings at the top for you. Trigger warning, estimates.
Yeah. I love estimates, but I just don't do them. Nah, I accept the team. I accept what the team say. It's just test estimates that I don't like, if we're going to be specific about it. Because that's just nonsense, isn't it?
Well, I always love the quote from Douglas Adams. I love deadlines. I love the whooshing noise they make as they go by.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, because usually they do whoosh, to be honest.
Yes.
And I enjoy aspirations, but when you're into the realms of hopes and dreams, then I think you're on shaky ground. I just work on the work. When it comes to things like that, I'm just start doing the work and you'll find out. Get going.
Yes. You're just like, I'll come back to you in 2 days with an estimate.
Yeah.
The estimate is 2 days.
Pretty much.
Confidence level 100%.
And you can put that in my I'll put that in my personal development plan.
Yes.
As a goal that's been met for the year.
For the year.
Yeah. Wake me up next year for a new one.
Yes. Oh, joy.
So that was my thing.
Well, Ash, that thing was a monument amongst things.
Monumental. A mental monument to things.
I reckon if you went to Monument Valley,
there it would be.
You'd find that thing right there.
Filled the valley.
Yes. And yeah, not just one monument.
Can we seamlessly transition to an interlude where I drink some water?
We can, although I think you're misusing the word seamless there.
Can we transition to an interlude?
Yes. Yes, we can. It's just the tech industry and the people that work in it love the word seamless.
Yes, I saw a presentation today with at least 4 uses of the word seamless, which describe systems that we hadn't integrated with yet. So it's like, well,
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe I can have this as a thing sometime.
Seamlessness.
Yeah, because seamless means you can't tell where one finishes and the other one begins, which is a security nightmare.
Yeah.
Because without boundaries, we are nothing.
Yeah.
People just say seamless. What they mean is, gigantic Grand Canyon-like seams are permitted in this context. It's just the most misused word in the tech industry. I suppose
it depends on the seam, doesn't it? And who sees the seam. If to a customer
who's fallen down it and lies broken at the bottom.
Yeah. To a development team who's trying to integrate with other things, then the seams are going to be quite immense generally. But to a customer, maybe transitioning between one system and another.
I think the bleached bones of customers may be found at the bottom of many technology seams.
Well, I'll still call it seamless.
Well, yeah, of course, so will I.
Yeah, in my presentations, I'll call it seamless.
Yes, in your presentations, it will be seamless.
Absolutely. This is the world as I want it to be, not as it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, seamlessly transitioning to an interlude. Seamfully. So, can I talk about interlude things after I've had another little drink?
You can talk about interlude things before or after you've had another little drink. Out of your Coral Monzo bottle.
Yeah, indeed.
With a squeaky lid.
With a squeaky.
Okay then. So have you got any
interlude things?
Announcements. I don't know why I'm calling it. I just think announcements is a very silly word for what we do in the interludes, but
I think I prefer
interlude thing.
Interlude. Oh no. It's we can't have we're doomed, aren't we?
We will now commence with interlude thing number 1.
Like
interlude thing number 1. Would you please come to the microphone?
So I have an achievement for my interlude thing number 1.
Or announcement.
No, an achievement. Because it is an achievement, I think.
It is an achievement.
So I ran 100 kilometres at an event called a Backyard Ultra. So what happens is every hour, you set off on a loop, which is 4.16 miles, 6.7 kilometres. And then you have an hour to complete that loop. And then as long as you return within the hour, you then maybe go to the toilet, have something to eat, and then on the hour, you go out again. And you keep doing that until you can't run anymore.
So for me, I think this whole having time to go to the loo and do anything in between is just fictional. I feel I would be stumbling over the line at the second and then having to start again.
Yeah, that's when it gets real sad because you when you get really tired, you then start to come in like much closer to the hour mark.
Yeah.
And then you have to go straight back out again. And by the time you hit that slope,
it multiplies.
Yeah, then you're done. So I managed 16 laps, basically, which was 12 hours of running time because I would generally finish after about 45 minutes of the hour.
Oh, right.
And then have 15 minutes to refresh oneself for the next lap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that is really an achievement. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I managed to completely wreck my ankle as well. So I haven't run since. But, if you're going to do these strange, crazy things, then you should probably expect side effects.
So where did you go to do this?
So this was at Bramley Falls Park in Leeds.
Oh, okay. So not just far away.
No. So just near the Kirkstall Ford train station.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that is insane. But
yeah.
Really an achievement.
Yeah. So I'm in recovery.
I've got an Apple Watch Ultra and I've never done anything like that.
This is the new joke, isn't it? You did this one last time.
I did, yes.
Yeah, I know. You get stuck on them.
I like a good repeating joke. I'm not sure this is it, though. It's a bit too self-deprecating.
And then the following day, we got a new cat. Well, so she's called Bauhaus.
That was going to be my first question.
Yeah, which means building house.
Not named after the band, then?
No.
From the 80s?
No, named after the movement started by Walter Gropius. So she's 8 years old. She's a rescue from Halifax, RSPCA. And she's settling in nicely.
Oh, lovely.
So unfortunately, we used to have 2, and then over the summer, very sad times.
Yeah.
Where Millie passed away. So, and we waited a little while, but we thought, oh, well, maybe we can rescue a cat and give a cat, because, like when they're a little bit older, sometimes they struggle to find new homes because people want younger animals sometimes.
Okay.
So she'd been in the RSPCA for a little while. So, but now she lives with us.
Quite happy to live in your house then.
Yeah, absolutely.
With its cat luxuries.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of, almost entirely cat friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Human friendly.
Adult human friendly, cat friendly, small humans, not so much.
No.
So they are my, I'm not going to say announcements. They are my interlude things.
Oh dear.
So Ian, do you have any interlude things?
I do. I did a talk.
Hey.
See, I realised I haven't done a talk since before the pandemic.
Oh, that is a long time.
And I just thought it seemed like a good idea to sort of get back on the horse, if you like.
Yeah.
And Squadify, who I work for, I'm their CTO, asked me to do this talk in London at an AI meetup. So I did go and I did this talk, and it was called Enhancing Team Effectiveness with AI, a Squadify case study.
So did AI write that title? Did a large language
No,
model?
it didn't. It's basically a talk about how the work I'd done with Squadify to bring AI into their platform.
Right.
And without going off on some kind of weird selling spree, I believe in Squadify. I've seen a lot of teams that really needed help,
mm-hmm.
and Squadify can be that help. And I think I did a talk, and there's a video of it. Although I experienced this video as a video of a fat person saying a lot while slides go by. But I'm reliably informed by other people who've watched it that actually it is a video about...
You're having a particularly high self-esteem moment.
Yes, exactly. But it turns out that other people listening to it find the content at least moderately interesting. So
Good. People
came and talked to me after it. So I felt very good about it. And has been a long, long time.
Yeah. It's not the pre-pandemic. I did loads and loads of talks pretty much every month. But since the pandemic, a lot less. I've done a few this year, and it's been nice to use the skills again a little bit.
Yeah.
So no, that's good. I'm glad for you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. The other thing that was interesting about it was the first presentation I've done using IA Presenter. Have I ever talked to you about this?
IA
Presenter.
IA Presenter. All right, okay.
Yes, I think he saw the look on my face and decided not to go there. Wise move. So IA is a company called Information Architects. That's what it stands for. And for many years now, they've had an app in the Apple ecosystem, across the Apple ecosystem, called IA Writer. And what that is a distraction-free writing tool. But IA Presenter is a presentation software that uses Markdown. So you write your presentation as a Markdown document, and it does all this kind of responsive formatting and they've got these different themes with different CSS, and you can make your own themes if you want to get into that. One of the nice things about it is all the presentations with it are completely responsive. So if you want to, you can show them on a phone in portrait mode, and it just lays it out for that. If you turn it sideways, it lays it out for that. So it's not a fixed aspect ratio like you normally get with PowerPoint, etc. But it was a whole different way of doing it. And part of what you have to do is kind of surrender to it, because you can't, if you want to minutely control the layout, you can't. It's just it's like a series of web pages controlled by CSS with different fonts and responsive stuff. So it was really quite interesting.
Yeah, so you spend less time tinkering probably. So you just accept it as it is.
Well, ideally, that is what happens.
Well, I would expect, obviously, you to begin to tinker with it.
If you really start having very strong feelings about how you want something there exactly, you just can't. It doesn't work like that. You have to just say, well, I do want a picture on this page. And you can say, do you want it to cover the background? Do you want it to be contained in its space, or do you want it to cover the space but extend beyond the edges of it? You know, all the things that you sort of think about when you're doing a web page, in fact.
Yeah.
But there's a limited control of stuff like image placement.
Right.
So you've got to kind of let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to micromanage it like you do in PowerPoint and all the other Keynote, all the other ones. So it's quite an interesting experience, actually. And I sort of doubted at some points, will I get to the end of it? But I did. And of course, the great thing is, because it's a markdown document, when you share it, it's kind of, you can share it just as a document.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if you put in your speaker notes of what you wanted to say, actually, it makes a decent document. So the space from that to a blog post is a very short journey.
Yeah, you can sort of immediately create another piece of content out of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, I wasn't going to go on about that, but actually I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that they've got in that, which is really cool, I've not seen anywhere else, is over the course, you can make your slide backgrounds follow a gradient. So you can start off blue and it slowly goes to orange as you go through it's just like morning to evening as you go through the slides. So I thought that's a lovely idea that I've never seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah. It's good signposting as well, isn't it?
It's nice. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So that was more than I thought I would say about that. But yes, first talk went well. Video that I find mortifying. And I did want to say one other thing, because I've been watching a new TV show.
Okay.
And it's kind of stressful.
In a good way?
Yeah, well...
Or in a terrifying
It was
way?
recommended to me, but it's stressful in a stressful way.
Yeah.
So it's people shouting at each other and losing their tempers, but somehow working together in a team to deliver these amazing things. It's The Bear, it's called, and it's about a restaurant. And this guy, who's a Michelin chef, comes back to inherit a restaurant from his brother.
Right.
And then it's the story of what he does and how it goes with the various people who already work there, and how he's trying to make it into a restaurant that can get a star.
Yeah.
And it is remarkably good, but it is quite stressful. The things that have grabbed me about it are, one of them is that you know, you see examples of all the people, this sort of, yes, chef thing that with a lot of unison. But what they show is how a kitchen works, how it works, and that's what's so compelling about it. And the way that a high performing, you know, high standards kitchen, how they maintain a level of perfection, and the way that they communicate amongst themselves. So one of the chefs is sort of acting as a caller and saying, right, we've got two, you need to cook 2 steaks for the table over there, and these things need now to go out to that table. And there's this kind of coordination with feedback from different people.
Okay.
So sort of saying, you know, acknowledgement. So they say, heard, chef, to show that they've comprehended the message. It is a bit magical. I want now to go to a nice restaurant so that I can eat food with this new knowledge that I've got from watching The Bear. And I think that's what's so great about it. It's something to do with teams and how they kind of can go wrong sometimes, or somebody loses their temper under the strain. And the strain is just enormous. And that's kind of like stressful to watch, because you can just see people being tested.
Yeah. You can kind of see it coming as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the thing about the acknowledgement. Say, I've heard, because that's one of the things that in a lot of teams you don't get.
Yeah.
I'd look back on like all the work that I've done, and it's like, do people really? It's rare that you get acknowledgement that someone has actually heard what you're saying, or you acknowledge what someone else has said.
Yeah,
you know, it's more broadcast than like
listening.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing they do, because they're all crowded in this quite small space of the kitchen, they're quite verbal about walking around even. So they say corner, and they go around the corner. Yeah. And they say behind when they walk behind someone, just so that everyone can always maintain an awareness of what's going on around them without ever taking their focus away from this very demanding task of making this dish 6 times for 2 different tables.
Yeah.
And making sure that everybody gets what they've ordered and that it's done in the way they want it, because it's a nice experience.
And it's done in like a timely fashion.
And it's perfect. And their obsession with the perfection. And you see them with tweezers putting tiny bits of herbs on top of things and putting sauce onto things in a very kind of exact way. And then something smudges it and then they're like, right, start again.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Mm.
It's worth putting up with the stressfulness to watch
Right,
it.
okay.
It's on Disney Plus. But
okay.
Yeah.
I have heard of it, but never watched it.
No, you should give it a try. Watch The Bear. It's very, very, very good.
Okay. So.
Thing 2.
Thing 2. Should we move on to the thing proposed by Ian Smith?
Yes. And unfortunately, because I fixed the database, I'm only allowed one perspective.
One perspective.
On it. So we're down to one each.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well.
My thing is the clock.
I'm glad that you very specifically said it like that.
How could I have said it, Josh? I don't understand the joke here.
There is no joke.
There is no joke. Now that can run.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, that's true. Actually, last time we've both done it now, so it's a genuine long running joke, not just Ian repetitive joke.
Well, I accept either.
They are very closely related, to be fair.
Yes, I always like those 80s sitcoms with the same joke every week. I just love that.
That's part of the device, isn't it? You know,
the pinnacle of that was Allo Allo, which is
the policeman,
a comedy about the French resistance in World War II.
Yeah.
And every episode, the policeman, who's an English spy in France, would come in and say good morning. And the French resistance leader would arrive and say, listen very carefully, I will say this only words. And every episode, all the same things would happen.
So
and I would laugh like a drone.
Yeah, every single episode was pretty much the same, wasn't it?
I don't know, there were some highlights.
Okay.
But I'm going to avoid that rabbit hole because I've only managed to say the first 2 words of the name of my thing.
Maybe we can have Allo as an interlude next time.
I think maybe we could, yes. I don't think we should tell people we're going to do that because they'll just unsubscribe.
No. Well, we should also think, yes, we could, but should we?
Always a good question.
Yeah.
Just because you can do something. So my thing is the clock of the long now. What this is it's a project of the Long Now Foundation, which was started in the 90s. And it was started by a chap called Danny Hillis. Because Ash attempted to disrupt my memory of this by saying it was Bruce Willis, but it's not Bruce Willis. It's a chap called Danny Hillis,
yep.
Who was kind of obsessed with this idea that people thought the future was the year 2000. And in the 90s, you know, we all thought, oh, wow, the year 2000, that's a big deal. But he started this foundation because he wanted to think about time in a different scale. And the clock of the long now is a clock that's being built inside a mountain in Texas that's designed to run for 10,000 years. And you sort of nod and say yes when you hear that, but actually the technical challenge of doing that is immense. Because as soon as you start the what ifs, you know, what if there's a nuclear war with a nuclear winter?
Yeah.
What if there's a massive earthquake? What if civilization is burned back to the ground and returns to the Bronze Age? You know, all of these things that might happen. How can you build something that's resilient against anything that could happen in the span of 10,000 years, given that humanity is currently what, I don't know, probably.
Yeah, so like how long have we been in the Anthropocene
era? But, you know.
So it's a...
Human civilization started much less than 10,000 years ago.
Exactly. Well, certainly as we perceive it today as well. Certainly.
Well, yes. Yes, relatively. So when you start looking at things on the scale of that amount of time, it changes a lot of the things we think about. We've both been involved in building systems, but we never think of anything like that time frame.
No,
you're thinking about next year.
Yeah.
At the outside.
Yeah, because there are some people in technology say, well, you need to think about like the end of this system as well.
Yes.
You know, think about it all the way from building its first iteration to when it's actually obsolete. But it's hard to get people to think like that, even and that might be 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So a drop in the ocean compared to what this project is.
Yeah, and if you think about even 1,000 years, there's not a lot of things around that were made more than 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. There's only a very select set of monuments, isn't there?
I mean, Britain has existed. I mean, I think we measure from William the Conqueror showing up in 1066.
Yeah.
And that's a bit under 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness for that. My whole appreciation of history was just swaying dangerously. So, yeah, I thought this was very interesting.
Mm.
Of course, it's expensive, and so it's being funded by Jeff Bezos in a mountain owned by Jeff Bezos.
Do you think Jeff is going to put his consciousness into this clock in some way so he can project himself forward in time?
I'm trying not to say the phrase giant clock.
So you mentioned like engineering challenges.
Mm.
So what sorts of things?
Well, materials. What can you make it out of that won't wear out across 10,000 years? What about maintenance? So if you can't guarantee that it'll be maintained.
Yeah.
And if we're in a Bronze Age regressive civilization.
Back to the Bronze Age.
Could you make it out of stuff that they might be able to maintain it with?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting challenge, isn't it, as well?
And you sort of often hear about planned obsolescence.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's like planned durability.
Yeah, because to be as reliable as it needs to be, I guess, like you say, it needs to be made of the right materials. It probably needs to be simple, as in not have tons and tons of moving parts in order to do its job, which is simple is hard to achieve as well, isn't it? While still also fulfilling the purpose.
Yes.
You can make simple things which are rubbish and don't do the thing that you want them to do.
Yeah.
But that's really hard to do engineering like that, is to strip something back to only what it needs in order to do the job. Because again, that's another thing in software development as well, that things are often very, very complex or made complex.
Yeah.
And actually, the job itself that you're trying to do is fairly simple by comparison. But we end up with a lot of complexity, like building on top of itself. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. And we mentioned here about the power system as well. So
yeah, I mean, goodness knows.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So it's like that was one of the challenges to overcome, is to think of like a power system which could run for that long.
It's powered, according to my quick Google there, by a combination of mechanical energy sources. So mechanical energy harvested from temperature differences between day and night, energy from human visitors who contribute through interaction, and solar energy.
It's like an exercise bike.
A solar energy which captured through a window, allowing sunlight to heat a sealed air chamber. So it's all of those are really ingenious. I just I was reading them out, just thinking that, except for the exercise bike.
That's how it is. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to last for 10,000 years, if it needs humans on exercise bikes to run it.
So it's got chimes in it.
All right.
And they've made it, they've got enough different tones with these chimes that they can make over 3.5 million combinations, which means that throughout the days of the 10,000 years, it will never repeat itself.
Interesting. That's cool.
The other thing I learned was that there's a model of it in the Science Museum, which has made me want to go and see it. And if you can go and see it in the mountain, but it's very remote.
Right.
So it's you're not going there on the way to somewhere.
Right. You need to
you have to decide you definitely want to go and then make a plan about a trip to go and see it.
Right.
Additionally, the clock features 2 helical weight drives, and its timing is regulated by a torsional pendulum with a 1-minute period. Wow, that's ticking slowly. You think about a grandfather clock, tick, tick. It's 1/60th of it ticks every minute.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, the reason that I was drawn to it was the technical challenge of it, the difficulty of it, but also the perspective of it. The idea that we're going to start this project, which will be finished when innumerable generations of humans have been and gone. I mean, there are multi-generational sort of things now. So, for example, the railways. There were people who worked on the railways in the 1800s or whenever, when they were being invented, who passed that on to their children and their children's children, kind of thing. But this is on another scale. I mean, how many, in 2,000 years' time, will there be a sort of priesthood of the clock or something that will know its mysteries, but will only have a very dim view of where it came from or who put it there?
Yeah. Planet of the Apes style worshipping the nuclear bomb sort of thing. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that Jeff Bezos funded this, but I kind of wonder, will these people in 2,000 years' time have any idea about him or anything to do with anything? I mean, will they be? It's unimaginable. When you think how humanity has changed in the last 1,000 years, the idea of 10,000 years is just inconceivable.
Yeah.
And building for that.
Yeah. That part of me loses hope when it comes to humanity and having like multi-generational responsibility, because sometimes I think we're not doing a very good job of that. No. So, part of me is like, oh, right, well, a clock that's going to last for 10,000 years. It's like, well, all right then, but, if climate change brings the whole lot down in the next 200 years, then who's bothered? But I don't want to be too cynical about it either, because I like projects which have ambition to do things like this, because I think they're really important.
Yeah, it's like when the space, in the moon landings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was humanity kind of, there was a lot of politics around it and beating the Russians and all the rest of it. But despite that, it was kind of what's next. Yeah.
And you feel like there's like aspiration there to do things. I remember when I read, what was the book called? So basically, I can't remember what the book was called, but the gist of it is that we are now just like custodians of society as it is, and there's little aspiration left. It wasn't the most cheerful of books. If I can remember what it was, we'll put it in the notes. Yeah. And that kind of thought scares me a little bit, because I'm like, oh my God, is this it? Because to be honest, I was quite fearful. As a kid, I was quite afraid of nuclear war and climate change.
Yes.
I felt like existential dread because of those things.
And we kind of dodged nuclear war so far.
Yeah.
But, climate change, we're signally failing to dodge.
Yeah. So it's like, I find hope when projects like this start and, people aspire to do something that's going to reach beyond like their lifetime, like way beyond their lifetime. Because it gives me a little bit of a boost to think that people are still aspiring to do something which is like goes beyond, the normal and pushes society on a little bit more.
It makes me think of things like Stonehenge and the pyramids.
Yeah.
Which were built for reasons. Stonehenge, I don't think anyone really knows why it was built, although it clearly has some sort of ancient religious significance and to do with the cycles of the sun and all the midsummer and all this kind of stuff. But those people building that could not have imagined us looking at it in 2024.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, I think, the feeling that you get from this. It's something that can outlast us. Yeah.
To me as well, it's like a bit of an antidote to building something simple, long-lasting, resilient and reliable is like an antidote to my current sort of feelings of the end-shitification of the world.
Yes.
I saw that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. I saw that Cory Doctorow had coined, we're entering the end-shito-scene.
Yes, well, he's going to be coining that in various ways for the rest of...
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know, I find solace in like projects like this, trying to do something different. And then also like when I think about like my own work as well, to do a good job and to leave things better than they were, rather than my overriding feeling sometimes that humanity generally leaves things worse than they were in most things that we do. I'm not sure that's absolutely true, but it's just like, in your lower moments, that's how you feel.
You can feel like that. I mean, the thing is, there's plenty of stuff to back that up, even though there are things to contradict it.
Yeah. So it's like, I say it's too easy to be cynical about these things when there's a lot of like suffering in the world. But anything that exposes, anything that short-termism often is the cause of suffering.
Yeah.
So anything that looks to go beyond that, I'm all for it, and I'll just ignore that Jeff's involved.
One of their FAQs is, given all of the world's pressing problems, why build a 10,000-year clock?
No.
There's a great passage underneath which I've enjoyed, which was, wasn't the clock supposed to have been built on a mountaintop in Nevada? Originally, the idea was to build a practice clock in Texas, which would serve as a prototype for a 10,000-year clock in Nevada. As we got into the project, we came to appreciate the complexities of underground construction in a remote mountain and understood the quality of materials that we needed to make even a practice clock. So in getting this prototype working as a long-lasting clock, it became a real 10,000-year clock. So basically, it's a prototype that's gone into production.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's very... we can all identify with that as people in software as well, can't we? It's like, my proof of concept is now serving 5 million requests a day.
Yes.
It's like, right, okay. And we've scaled it.
And there's another FAQ, which I find entertaining. When can people visit this clock? We have an understanding that the clock will have ways of being visited in the future. We do not have the details of how that will work yet.
See, that's the second, like Douglas Adams was invoked in my mind with that as well.
Yes. The clock is located in some of the roughest desert wilderness in North America, inhabited by rattlesnakes and mountain lions. Even the needle-sharp plants are out to get you. I've seen weather shift from a baking heat to a dust storm to lightning to freezing sleet in a matter of hours. The clock is deep underground in a mountain that's far from roads, and it's a tough climb to reach it. So basically, you have to really, really want to go and see it.
Which I quite do.
Yeah.
Even despite that description.
Yes. Well, probably the description's helped, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
And if you were going there, you could legitimately get an Apple Watch Ultra 2. Anyway, that was my thing, which was more monumental than...
That was, well, it's literally
a monument, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not a game changer.
No. Why make it so hard to visit? I always wanted the clock to be far away in the middle of nowhere, because remoteness makes it more likely to survive.
Well, yeah, so it's like the seed vault, isn't it, in Svalbard?
Yes.
It's like, if you put that in central London, someone would probably break in. So
yes.
It's like, it's better if it is somewhere remote.
It is.
Yeah. So I also understand that as well.
Yes. So...
But that's a great thing. It fills me with a bit of hope, which is...
It's a slightly optimistic thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That if we're going to make something that's lasts for 10,000 years, that there's some point to that.
That we might have a go
at... the existence of humanity continuing.
Yeah, we might have a go at being around in 10,000 years' time.
Yes. All the people gathered round at the base of it to hear it chime the 10,000th year.
Yeah.
Chime.
I think the other thing that's just popped into my head about it is the slowness that is not valued anymore.
Mm.
So I do things slowly, and I make no apology for it. So like the other day, I was testing a new service, and I wanted to learn about its dependencies. So I've spent a few hours going through those dependencies and finding out how they all work.
Yes.
And then when I tested the service, I did a good job of testing it because I understood. Whereas I could have just like poked it a bit through the API of our own service.
Yes.
And seen a few responses and said, well, yeah, that looks okay.
Looks fine to me.
Yeah, exactly. So I took the time. I always remember an old boss of mine. He told this story of when his mum would ask his dad to paint the lounge or whatever.
Mm.
And he'd get out his 3-inch paintbrush and start painting the lounge. And he'd put test match special on and just exist with that task and just do it slowly. Mm. And his wife would be like, why are you doing it so slowly? It's like, and he'd be like, well, you asked me to do it. So, but I'm enjoying it, doing it like this, and it doesn't have to be fast. So I've always really enjoyed, I personally enjoy taking my time over things and not rushing them.
Yes.
And to be fair, my personality is a bit like, if you try and rush me, I'll tell you to go away. So I like the slowness of this as well.
Yeah.
Because there's just not much of that around. Although I do like running fast. But anyway. Yeah,
but for a long time.
For a long time. So yeah, that was the other thing that appealed to me about this thing. It made me think of quite a few things.
Excellent. So food for future episodes.
Yeah.
Scarily.
Absolutely. Could do a future episode about my existential dread of climate change.
Ooh.
Let's not do that. Please don't do that. Let's just talk. Can we talk about Butlin Skegness instead?
Yeah. So I would like to say something like, so how can people email us, Ash? But then I lack confidence that your answer will be,
I can be sensible about this. No, just to prove you wrong.
Go on then. I just can't do it.
I don't know if I could even say it normally
anymore. He's trying to remember it, but it's just breaking up in the wrong places.
So you can email Ian and Ash.
You can.
At whatalotofthings.com.
In fact, please do.
Or technologyeors at whatalotofthings.com.
I'm going to sample these and I'm going to put them on my little buttons over here.
And they are the most sensible email addresses that we have.
The only ones. I was thinking the other day that we should just do that thing where all emails get forwarded to us, whatever email address is used. And then we can just make a new one up every week because we know they will all work. But no, it's Ian and Ash at whatalotofthings.com or technologyeors at whatalotofthings.com. So really it's a matter for your own personal taste.
Yeah. Or just text us.
They can't text us.
Mary says differently.
Mary can text me.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Well.
There was such a father turning that well then.
Oh dear.
Goodbye, Ian.
I feel a bit...
Sorry, that sounded a bit final, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was just like the next sound was the loud explosion. Goodbye, Ian. Oh dear. Who shot first? That's what they'll be asking about us.
Who shot JR?
Yes.
No one. It was all a dream.
It was all a dream.
It was.
So, thank you for listening to us and good night.
Good night.
Right. I'm pressing a button.
Press the button.
Not that button.